If you're watching this video, I can imagine you're taking an online course. You're probably a little concerned about your grades and want to know how you can improve. Well, my name is Mr. Sexton, and I have been teaching online for several years, and I have some insight, maybe from your point of view, maybe some secrets that you might want to know. What is the instructor looking for when he looks at my postings and my online activity? Well, let's look at that. Probably the most important thing you have going in an online course is the discussion forum. Most people are scared to death about the discussion forum. They don't know what to write. They don't know what to do. They try to follow other people. They realize that 50% of their grade, 50% of their grade is dependent upon how well they write in the discussion forums. So that's important. Well, let's look at what we can do to improve. There are some things you need to know to impress your instructor. There are three of them. One, show them you're a competent writer. Two, show them they're reading and comprehending. And three, interact well with your instructor and other students. Now, there are some actual little tips I can give you here to help you. Actually, there are 6 tips that I can give you so you can get higher scores on your following postings. All right, let's look at them. The first tip is write substantive, well-composed, complete, and succinct answers. We'll discuss that in depth later. Use excellent grammar, spelling, punctuation, and capitalization, and I guarantee that even though you may not be a great grammarian or a speller, there are ways that you can improve your spelling and your grammar without having to spend hours and hours. There's simple things you can do. Write easy-to-read documents, realizing your instructor is reading hundreds of postings per week. How are you going to dress your posting for success? Make sure you include clear evidence that you've been reading the weekly assignment. All the assignments are connected to the reading. All the discussion questions are connected to the reading. Make sure you've read and created clear citations to your reading so your instructor knows you've read the information. And then connect your ideas, your own knowledge to the research. And last, 6th, include substantive interaction with other students and instructors. And we'll talk about all 6 of those items right now. We'll look at 6 tips for getting higher grades in your discussion forums. First of all, write substantive, well-composed, complete, and succinct answers. To do that, connect the questions to the week's reading. Remember, I said that the two go together, so make sure you connect the two. Then divide your answers into clear paragraphs. Realize that most questions will have 5 or more elements within them. And if you write one long paragraph, it's very hard for your instructor to ferret out that you have really answered everything. Many instructors look to see that you have answered every single element in that question. So there are ways to do that. We're going to show you that. Use the questions to guide you. Cut and paste them into the text box before beginning to write, and I'll explain that more later. And then write complete answers. 1 or 2 sentences won't be considered substantive. Make sure that you answer the question completely. If you're using any kind of research in your writing, 1 or 2 sentences simply won't make it, and we'll talk about that. Now, how do you check your grammar and spelling? You're not so good at that, I see. So let's see what we can do. Well, create your answer in a word processing program. I prefer to use Microsoft Word. That works for me. It might not be your favorite program, but obviously if I wrote this right here in a word processing program, you can see, oh, I'm a lousy speller. I spelled this is my answer, and it should be S-A-N-S-W-E-R, and I spelled what I see quite often, where I meant to say definitely, I spelled defiantly, and I left off a question mark. Now, if I run that through a spell check, just go to the review section of your word processing program and then check for spelling and grammar, and wow, look at that. Everything has been cleared up. I now have a W where I need it. Definitely is definitely rather than defiantly. And I have a question mark there. Well, that's great, but it's all in the word processing program. Now you have to get it over into the text box for your particular school. So you open the text box from your school and you copy and paste this document into that document so that it looks like this. Notice I said copy and paste. I did not say make an attachment. Never use an attachment within a text box in a discussion forum. It takes far too long to open those and read through them. Just copy it and paste it in the text box. Your instructors will appreciate that. All right, now the third tip, create easy to read answers. Remember, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And so when you go into a classroom, you dress for it. You don't look sloppy and things like that. You want your instructor to know that you care about things. Well, online, your dress for success code should be even higher, because how you appear on paper is very important, very, very important. Your instructor is not just looking at the words, they're looking at the structure, at the white space you're using. Remember, they're reading hundreds of postings. How is yours going to stand out? So what I suggest doing is use the individual questions, the elements of the questions as headlines, and then answer the question under the headline. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this. Make it very simple. Here is a discussion question. Now notice, that's not just one question. There are like 4 questions within that rather lengthy question. How can we make it clear to an instructor that we're answering everything there? Well, it's simple. Do what professional business people do when they write a memorandum. In a memorandum, to make things quick and easy for people to see and to review, you always use headlines. You know, like, where am I going? What are the dates I'm going? How much is it going to cost? And so on. Those are headlines. And then you answer the question. I'm saying do the same thing in your postings. So what are they asking here? Well, they're asking this. Let's take that question again and break it up. They're saying, number 1, what does the term literature mean to you? Number 2, what makes something literary in your mind? 3, who defines what is literature? And 4, what kind of reading interests you? So there are 4 separate questions. Now look what you can do to make this very simple. You're going to make take those, number 1, considering the meaning of what does the term literature mean to you, and you're going to make it a headline. Then you're going to do the same thing with number 2, number 3, and number 4. Very simple. Now I can see you're going to answer all those questions, and all you do is answer the question one after another. Very, very simple. So your instructor can quickly see you've answered everything. Now, let me make a caveat here. You might want to check with your individual instructor to see if they understand this concept. We teach this for business writing. We teach this, actually, I teach a couple of strategy classes for different online universities, and we teach it there. It's actually one of the first things taught in the classes I teach, is to break up your questions so that your instructor can see everything. Some instructors, for some reason, want to read long paragraphs and figure it all out. I prefer to see that you've actually answered the question. So now that you know that, now you need to know how to show that you've read the weekly readings. In order to do that, you need to cite your sources. You're going to be reading your text, and when you're reading your text, you're going to have some thoughts. Now, when you're writing, you may think, well, I'm not going to quote this, but gee, I remember something what he said, so I summarize what he said. That is paraphrasing. When you summarize, you are paraphrasing. Whether you quote or paraphrase, you must cite your source. So let's look at how we do that. Include either a relevant quote or paraphrase material in your writing. Then let the reader know ahead of time that you're going to quote or paraphrase something. After you've done that, then cite the source from within the text and put it in the text of your message, like this. Okay, see how that's a citation. It's enclosed in parentheses. It has the author's name, the date of publication, and the page number. Then to complete that, you put a complete reference at the end of the message. So that will look like this. That is a complete reference. Now let's look at an example. Okay, let's see what happens when you connect your personal understanding with the quote and the paraphrase material. So you've got that. Now you need to connect yourself with that quote or paraphrase material. You can do that by examples from things you've seen. You might do it with opinions. Maybe you have an opinion and you're going to use that material from your text to support your opinion. So show the instructor you own the information. Write complete answers combining your own thoughts and the research. Avoid copy and paste postings. Don't just copy it and paste it in. Remember, make it your answer, not something that somebody else could have said, but something only you could say. So here's an example. As our text states, now we're signaling we're going to quote something. When building a house of stone, be certain to use substantive materials like bricks, not twigs and sand. And then we have a parenthetical citation right here. And then we go on to make it ourselves. I found that to be true when my brother and I built houses of twigs. Wouldn't you know it, the big bad wolf came and blew my house down. And then we have the reference. So the citation tells when and who wrote it and what page you can find on it, and the reference has all the rest. You must have both the citation and the references for any of this to make sense. Make sure to include both. Now, number 6 tip. Interact with other students and the instructor. The instructor is always looking to see that you're interacting. Online education is interactive. You have to be talking to other students. And you're not talking like, gee, that was a good job, or wow, I wish I'd said that. Your statements to other students should draw them out. Get them to talk more about their thinking. Get them to maybe take a different look at something. But always try to draw other students out. When it comes to your instructor, if your instructor responds to you, never turn your back and walk away. Always respond back. If your instructor says, wow, that was great, I think you're the best student I've ever had, I can't believe it. If you don't respond to that, you're nuts. You want to come back and say, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am. I didn't know I was so good. Make sure you respond to instructors. And when you do it, make sure you respond respectfully. Okay, in summary, I want to point out these 6 tips for writing discussions. Write substantive, well-composed, complete, and succinct answers. Use excellent grammar, spelling, punctuation, and capitalization. Write easy-to-read documents. Include clear evidence the student has read the material, and provide that evidence that you know what you're talking about, and then interact with your students and the instructor. So here's some other thoughts. Some things you should do. Do respond to any comments from your instructor. I just mentioned that. Do stay on topic. Don't drift off onto other things. Do answer all questions completely. Proofread your answers before posting. And include research proof that you read the assignment. And then connect personally to the research. And no matter what you do, make sure you post on time. If it's late, sometimes you might as well not do it at all. Some instructors won't accept anything late. So make sure you're on time. Being online doesn't mean it's any time. Okay, something else, some things you don't want to do. You do not want to use texting conventions such as lowercase I, LOL, OMG. That means not in your initial posting. Don't do it in your secondary postings. Don't do it in your emails. Always write professionally when you're online. Never use texting conventions. Do not type in all capital letters. Capital letters are very difficult to read. We don't read letters, we read shapes. Additionally, when you write in all capital letters online, you're basically shouting. Do not write your answer in MS Word and then simply attach the document to the text box. Cut or copy and paste. Do not attach documents. Do not respond to classmates or instructors with, oh, that's great, I agree, great job, and things like that. And do not refer to your instructors as hey. My name is not Hey. I don't expect to be called Hey. I am an instructor, a professor. You can call me Mr. Sexton, you can call me professor, you can call me instructor. I will not respond to hey. So, now go graduate. You have the 6 tips for great postings. Let's see you use them.